Hello, hi, welcome for a daily dose of ASMR history triggers with map tracing. And today we're gonna dive into some of the greatest towns in medieval Europe. Greatest towns or cities in medieval Europe featuring mix of stats and historical significance, and some quirky tidbits to keep this ASMR session spicy. Alright, I made a curated list of iconic towns and cities that were powerhouses in medieval Europe. And first, let's start with one of the most known, Constantinople. Constantinople, modern day Istanbul, Turkey. Well, Constantinople had in 1000 AD approximately 800,000 people. It was the largest city in medieval Europe by far. It back then was the capital of Byzantine Empire and home to Hagia Sophia, built in 537, once the world's largest cathedral. Constantinople grew up because it was a vital hub for trade between Europe and Asia and was part of the Silk Road. Okay, and now some quirky facts about, or a quirky fact about Constantinople back then. Did you know that citizens of Constantinople were obsessed with chariot racing? Chariot racing. So, chariot racing. And there also some faction burned, like blues and greens caused riots between them, like modern day football. Okay, next we're gonna head up to another great city of medieval Europe. And let's talk about Venice. In 1300, when the map was here is depicting the medieval kingdoms, Venice has 100,000 population. It was a naval and trade empire dominating the entire Adriatic. Later it was an empire. Venice was ruled by a doge, like a Seo king, and was built entirely over 100 small islands and had over 400 bridges. 400 bridges. The quirky fact is that Venice citizens' wealth was so vast that they made coins from glass called testons for ceremonial use. So, ceremonial use with testons, glass coins. Next. Well, the next cities we're gonna talk next doesn't exist here on this map, but in reality, it is one of the greatest Spain cities today. It is about Cordoba. Cordoba. Somewhere here. Alright. Well, why was back then Cordoba so important? It had a population of 450,000 people. It was one of the largest and most advanced cities globally. Back then, it was the capital of Islamic Spain. Before the Kingdom of Castile, capital of Islamic Spain, had street lighting, paved roads and public libraries, when London was mostly made of sheds. The Great Mosque of Cordoba is still an architectural marvel. And now the quirky fact. Cordoba boasted over 70 public libraries. 70 libraries. Including one with 400,000 books, while most of the Europe barely had access to paper. Okay, some talk is there. So, goes with that. And now, let's head into the Central Europe. And let's talk about Prague. Prague. Another great medieval city. In 14th century, population 50,000 people. 50,000 people. Well, not here on this map, but it was as well capital of the Holy Roman Empire under the Charles IV. We can see here the Holy Roman Empire. So it was the capital under the Charles IV. It is home to Charles University, founded in 1348, the oldest university in Central Europe. A very weird fact is that site of defenestration of Prague, throwing people out of windows, was a political move back then. The famous Prague astronomical clock was built in 1410. Astronomical clock was built in 1410 and today is still functioning and performs a hourly puppet show. Okay, next in the list is London. London, population 80,000 people back then. Well, a city that grew rapidly despite the Black Death. It is home to the Westminster Abbey, where most monarchs have been crowned. The guilds. The guilds control much of the city, life and commerce. And the quirky fact about London is that banned people from throwing waste out of windows, but people did it anyway. So that was not common. This matter. And next is Paris, Kingdom of France. Well, modern France today. Okay. Hosted, it had 200,000 people in the 14th century. It was a center of culture, theology, and politics. Hosted University of Paris and home to the Notre Dame. Notre Dame construction started in 1163. As well, Paris was a site of major events in the Hundred Years' War. The quirky fact about Paris is that the left bank was the wild side, full of students, poets, and questionable behavior even back then. The left bank of the sea. Alright, next. Again in Italy. Florence. Population about 100,000 people. It was the birthplace of Renaissance. The famous Renaissance. Back then, Florence was ruled by the powerful Medici family. Florence was the city of medieval banking and trade, hosted legends like Dante, Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci. Did you know that Florence invented double entry bookkeeping, the system that still rules accounting today? Next, we're gonna go in Russia, in Russian states, and we're gonna start talking about Novgorod. Populations between 40,000 people. It was huge for a northern city. It was in an independent merchant republic. A major trading hub on the Varangian Byzantine route. Trading hub. It is notable for its VEC, a type democratic assembly. It fended off the Mongols, unlike the most of Russian cities. The quirky fact. Kids, doodles, and schoolworks scratched onto birch bark have been found. Medieval notebooks complete with spelling errors. So, because they didn't have access to papers, they used birch barks in order to scratch messages on it. Okay. And now the last one is York. York, England. Population of about 20,000 people. One of the England's most important ecclesiastical centre. Originally, York was a Roman city, a Boracum, but evolved into a Viking capital, Jorvik. It was seat of Archbishop of York. York had stone walls. A Minden was a key strategy point in northern England. Stone walls. And, oh no, the quirky fact about York. York's medieval streets. The shambles were so narrow you could shake hands with someone across the road, and was an ideal site for gossip and bread trading. Of course, there were more important cities back then in Europe, but in my opinion, this I think is the list with the most legendary in medieval times. Of course, feel free to correct me if I said something wrong, or you can come with some additions for information that I presented here. By the way, thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.